This last workshop will be split into two parts. So the first part, I will do the first part about modern search technologies and things we are doing at LexisNexis. And then come my two colleagues here, Geyrecker and Mr. Schefbeck. They are telling you about a very exciting legislation project, which is called Many Laws, when I've finished. But it's a little bit related because I come on the legislation topic as well. So I want to do that in a more, I don't know, interactive session. When you have any question, just speak up and let's discuss. I also want to show you some products or some concepts. We will access the test environment of LexisNexis, where you get a sneak preview of things we are about to launch in the next months. So happy to hear your feedback and your thoughts on that. So just about Lexis and about us, I think our vision is really to provide you answers in the information, not just result lists, not just vast of information. It's really our goal to help users to find their answers fast. That's very important for us. We see us as the leader in legal technology and information and analytics as well here in Austria. And we have a strong customer focus. So every project, every concept we are doing, we try to involve users as soon as possible. We talk to users about their pains, about their jobs, about their goals they try to achieve, and that's the driver for us to build the right products. And we are talking about the things we're doing, just like today. We think we have something to say in the legal tech area and in the things that are changing in this field, and that's very inspiring. And we have fun and are really a good team at LexisNexis. I want to show you Lexis 360 in more detail and a little bit the background how Lexis 360 works and what we have done differently compared to existing established legal research tools. I don't know who knows Lexis 360. Good. So Lexis 360 has been launched 2 years ago, and we went out with more or less 3 USPs and 3 new things. The first one is we really created new content. We really created new digital-only content from scratch. We call that sort of content Lexis briefings. And this Lexis briefings are more or less entry documents, topic-based entry documents to really start your research. We learned from users that it's more and more complicated to get an entry point to research when you are not familiar with a topic or when it's not that often you come across this topic. You need an entry point, and that's why we created this practical guidance documents to help users to really deep dive in the research content, but have a starting point. The second thing is really the knowledge graph. We added an additional new search to the existing full text search, and I will show that in a second. And the third part is really we try to do new things on the analytics side, so really expose data. So what we are doing is really we extract the data from the content set and model that data in a knowledge graph, and then we can do some analytics on these data points. So that gives us, or gives also the user, new additional insights, answer questions which the user was not able to answer in the past. So if you want to try it, here's the URL and the credentials, so you can try it. But I want to show it to you as well. I hope I have every connection. So, for example, if you search for a piece of legislation in Lexis 360, it does two different things. It does the normal search result here, so you get a full list of search results, but it also provides a knowledge snippet at the beginning, which is very similar to what Google is doing. Google, if you search Google for a person or for a country or city or whatever, some entity, then Google is displaying a knowledge graph as well. And this knowledge graph is not, the information in the knowledge graph is not based on full text search, it's more on relations. So it shows you the relevant information of this entity and the relations of this. And for example here, if we recognize that your search term is a piece of legislation, we can show you modeled after the workflow from a user, we can show you, oh, here's the commentary, here are new cases on this piece of legislation, here is the briefing, the entry document, just to get familiar with this topic and stuff like that. So it gives you a good relevant entry point into the vast amount of information. And this is not sufficient in every research use case. So sometimes you need to explore all search results, you need to deep dive, you need to filter down to individual, time spans and stuff like that. But it gives you a lot of added value when it comes to just look up use cases or use cases like, oh, is there something new in this area or stuff like that. So that's different, and it's really understood by the users, which is great. What else? I can show you an additional example here. For example, like a briefing, when you search for Geschäftsfähigkeit, you get a different search snippet. So again, modeled to the user workflow, some additional practical checklists and stuff like that around the topic, some cases, some briefings, additional briefings, related briefings, and stuff like that. So it's really dynamic, scenario-based snippet, and it behaves a little bit different depending on the scenario. Okay. I also want to show you another product which is called Lexis Smart Scan. Lexis Smart Scan is using this technology. No, stop. I wanted to show you the background a little bit. So maybe this makes sense first. And what we are doing different from a technology perspective, so maybe this is too deep dive, but I think it makes sense because it makes, you can generate ideas on how to use this information as well. So what we are doing is we do not process text as text in a full text search engine. We are more extracting information from this text. So there's a lot of text mining, there's a lot of pattern recognition, named entity recognition, stuff like that, natural language processing, which is going on here. And we model all these pieces of information in the knowledge graph. So we interconnect all the pieces in the knowledge graph. And this gives us more or less a representation of the law, let's say, a simple representation, not a full representation, but some sort of representation of the law. And you can answer the questions here on this, different questions on using this model and this knowledge graph. So for example, you can pick one author or one taxonomy node or one keyword, one concept and see what's going on around that. So a knowledge graph is very, very powerful in retrieving the context around a node or finding paths between nodes, for example. And there's a short example here. For example, when you're searching for a case here, this is a higher court case here in Austria, which is from 2013, and we can query the knowledge graph, and we can show you additional things you would not find when you rely on a full text search, because it's not mentioned in any other. For example, this case on the left side is from 2015, so it's a newer case, but it's not mentioned in the old case, for sure. And it's not mentioned, there's no direct relationship between them. But what we can see here is there is a relationship. And that's the beauty of law, because the law is a very, very interconnected domain. So this gives you a cool possibilities to do some sorts of things. So let's come back to the smart scan. What we have done is we said, okay, we always hear from users that they need to deal with documents, with text, drafting documents, reviewing documents. And what we have done is we built a plugin for Microsoft Word, which enables the user to really scan a document and extract the citations of a document. And in addition, we built natural language processing component in there, which is able to provide user recommendations based on the text only. So not based on the citations. So it works really with text only. We can try it out. So the idea is really that the user is checking what the document is dealing with. For example, we have a document here. It's just a copy and paste from the database, from an article. And I stripped out all the links and stuff like that. And I scan this document, and what you get here is a list of a clustered list of citations. For example, you see that we have 12 pieces of legislation mentioned here, and you can easily move through these citations and see what's going on here. And for example, here, or whatever you want to follow, I can directly access the knowledge graph from here. So it's not only a one-way route to a single document, to a citation, to full text of a case, for example. It's rather more again, we query the knowledge graph and give you the context. For example, here we have this piece of legislation, but you see here down that there is, let's make this full screen, that you have the commentary for this piece of legislation, that you have again a briefing where you can start reading about the topic. So you have it on your fingertips to really explore the surroundings of what the document is talking about. So that's a thing. What the barrier we see here for the product is really that Microsoft is having different versions of Word, and they are trying to move to Word Online anyways. So this is Word Online, and it works really pretty well with Word Online, but with Word 2013 or so, you have some limitations because the API of Word is limited. So the feature functionality is really the restriction is which version you are running. So and we have really a barrier there to see that there are a lot of old versions out there, and users, or mainly bigger corporations, are not able to install the things here. But everybody who is seeing that says, okay, it makes sense and adds value to my workflow. Okay, so next thing, legislation. What we have done, and I wanted to show it in the test environment, what we have done in the last couple of months is we enhanced our knowledge graph with legislation information. We had these pieces of legislation there, but we had no information about the parliamentary process, so the legislation process in the parliament. And what we are doing here is we are adding additional nodes and relations to the knowledge graph by, I don't know, mining additional texts and data. So what you can see here is that we have in the current legislation period, in the last 18 months, we have about 208 successful legislation initiatives, and they are affecting lots of laws. And we have the connections here, and we also have the connections to the parliamentary materials. So just to give you a more deeper view, is if you go into one of these initiatives, you see the relations around or the laws, or the pieces of even the pieces of legislation who are affected by the change, which is easier to find out when it's already published, so when it's already enforced, because you can go to the reason and can say, okay, it's this change affected this piece of legislation. But as long as there's no official publication, there's just discussion or the parliament process, you do not have this relation. And that's what we are providing here. And I can show you that in the test environment, hopefully. So in the future, hopefully in the next month when we launch that, you will see something like an alert when you search for a piece of legislation, for example, and you will see different status on that. So maybe it's just in the parliament, it's already a new version available, or there's a future version available already in the RES. And you can open up the pane here, so just by clicking here, and you see also a new representation of these versions. It's more a visual representation. We currently have a list of versions, but we changed that to visualizations, because we think and we learned that visualizations are easier to understand. So first you grab attention to the user, and if a user looks at the visualization, it's easier for him to understand and see the implications for him. So if you hover over one of these versions, you get this information which is being retrieved from the knowledge graph in the background. So you see again the relations. Where is this version coming from? Who was talking about first? Is it coming from the European Union? Is it coming, I don't know, is there a lot of discussion going on? Is there, the first entry here is a document written by us or by one of our authors about this specific version or initiative. So the Anti-Gold Plating Gesetz 2019 was a very important initiative, and we have a document about that describing this initiative or summarizing it. And so you can really deep dive and follow up why a certain piece of legislation has been changed. And that's the idea from a user perspective. And what we also try to achieve in the next version is another visualization which gives you more the importance and the context of the actual document you are currently on. So, for example, we are here at the legal case from 2002, and we see a preview of a visualization of the timeline and the context of the document. And there's even something like a score at the beginning, which tells you 42 other entities, documents, relations are connected to this document, which means it gives you something like an importance score of this document. And you can open this visualization and then it expands into categories or content types, and you can deep dive into that. So the goal is really to see what happened before or what happened after this actual document. Is there anything important happening after that? And for example, you can see here there are a lot of cases referring to this actual document from 2015, 2017, and so on. So you can explore the context in this more visual way, and you can open the document from here, or you can even deep dive one level and visualize the next document. So you can more or less go the path through the bubbles, and the bubble size is representing the importance of the document. So it gives you a different view on the legal world, more or less not so text-based, more maybe visual. Okay. So, what else? Any questions or any remarks on that? Any ideas regarding legislation, use cases you're experiencing in your daily life?
Yes, I think there was something that your CEO mentioned in the last session, that it would be really useful when you're in an actual document to know if something has changed since then, without always checking back behind, so that there's some flag on it, like, okay, the law has changed. There is a new decision regarding that, so that would be quite practical.
Yeah. Next step, maybe. It's current. The limitation here is currently the performance. So we need to retrieve this graph information in real time, and when we do that for all links, outgoing links within a document, this has too much performance impact right now. So that's why we don't do that right now. But yeah, absolutely right. Would have a real benefit.
Sometimes the friends are like, oh, that's really, really practical, and you think you found the exact thing you needed, only then you're like, oh no, there was actually half a year later there was something else that overturned that whole thing.
We will provide it earlier on the right-hand side. There is the related content on the right-hand side. So there we query the knowledge graph anyway. So there's no, and it happens asynchronous, and it's easier to do that on that pane. So you check on the side and say, okay, there is a I don't know, related content which is about to change. Okay. Any other questions?
Is it possible to search parliamentary materials? Because I saw that they're actually implemented, but So far, I think that no database actually performs a search within
Yeah.
parliamentary.
We don't have the full text of parliamentary materials. We just more or less pick up the metadata and store it in the knowledge graph. So as you have seen, the links go back to the Parliament site when we link to full texts of the parliamentary materials. So not right now. I think the Parliament, but you can answer the question maybe easier.
Parliamentary business through the Open Government Data Portal, so in principle it would be open to any kind of reuse. In the Minerals project that we will in a few minutes have the opportunity to present to you, we will also include the parliamentary business of, for the time being, the Austrian and Hellenic legislation and the EU legislation in the search environment. But in principle, because of the availability of the parliamentary business through the Open Government Data Portal, it could be done by anyone who would like to reuse the material in that way.
But not now. Yeah. Okay, so if there are no more questions.